Captain Jane Miller stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon, her eyes fixed on the main screen. The strange signal they had detected was unlike anything in their database. It pulsed with an odd rhythm, clearly artificial, and definitely not human. "What do you think, Alan?" she asked, turning to her science officer. Alan Clark studied his readings with furrowed brows. "It's coming from the Tau Ceti system. According to our charts, that system should be uninhabited. Yet something is clearly there," Jane said. She tapped her console, bringing up the ship's roster. They were a small crew, just 5 of them on this deep space mission. Besides herself and Alan, there was Security Chief Diane Powell, Communications Specialist Greg Bennett, and Engineer Lisa Wright. All of them were the best Earth had to offer. "Greg, can you make any sense of the signal?" Jane asked. Greg shook his head. "It's not following any pattern we know, but it's definitely a distress call of some kind. The urgency and the frequency. Modulation suggests someone's in trouble." Jane didn't hesitate. "Plot a course maximum speed. If someone needs help out there, the Horizon will answer." 20 hours later, the Horizon dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Tau Ceti system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. 2 alien fleets faced each other in the darkness of space. One group of ships was sleek and silver, with graceful curves that reminded Jane of dolphins. The other fleet was dark and angular, bristling with what were clearly weapons. "2 different species," Alan whispered, his instruments scanning frantically. "Neither of them human. We're witnessing first contact with not 1 but 2 alien civilizations." As they watched, one of the angular ships fired on a smaller silver vessel. The silver ship didn't return fire. Instead, it seemed to be trying to flee. "That smaller ship isn't military," Lisa said, reading from her console. "Its power signature suggests a civilian transport, and I'm detecting life signs consistent with children." Jane's expression hardened. "Greg, open all frequencies. Try to make contact." Before Greg could establish communication, the angular ship fired again. This time, its weapons tore through the civilian vessel. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but no less horrifying. "They just destroyed a ship full of children," Diane said, her hand moving to the weapon at her hip by instinct. Jane's decision was immediate. "Battle stations. Lisa, power up the main guns. Diane, ready defensive systems." "Captain," Alan protested. "We don't know the situation here. Protocol says—" "I know exactly what the situation is," Jane cut him off. "That was a civilian ship, with children, and it was destroyed without provocation." The Horizon moved forward, positioning itself between the Silver Fleet and their attackers. "Greg, broadcast on all frequencies," Jane ordered. "Let them know we stand for peace, but we will defend the innocent." Greg's message went out, translated into basic mathematical sequences that any spacefaring race should understand. "We are humans. We mean no harm, but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves." The angular ships seemed confused by the EU intervention. They halted their attack temporarily, clearly assessing this new arrival. One of the silver ships transmitted back, their message also in mathematical code, but quickly adapted to include basic English words they must have pulled from the Horizon's transmission. "Gratitude. We Veldari. They Corax. They kill without reason." The Corax ships regrouped, then 3 of them broke formation and headed straight for the Horizon. "They're coming in fast," Diane reported. "Weapons hot." "Target their weapon systems only," Jane ordered. "Disable, don't destroy." The Horizon's guns fired. For a small exploration vessel, the Horizon packed surprising firepower, a testament to humanity's caution in venturing into the unknown. The lead Corax ship took a direct hit to its weapons array. It spun out of control, clearly not expecting such precision or power from the unknown vessel. The other Corax ships pulled back, reassessing. They had never encountered humans before, had no idea what they were capable of. Their hesitation was visible in how they moved. The Veldari took advantage of the moment to pull their remaining civilian ships to safety. Jane stood tall on the bridge of the Horizon. "Send another message, Greg. Tell both sides that humanity is willing to talk. but we will not tolerate the killing of innocents. In that moment, humanity announced its presence to the galaxy, not with words, but with actions. And the galaxy took notice. John Hayes adjusted his blue Earth uniform as he stood outside the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The Veldari ambassador, Thexala, waited beside him. Thexala was tall, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the light, large, eyes that didn't blink, and 4 slender arms. "They are ready for you now," Thexala said in careful English. The Veldari had quickly learned human language from the data shared by the Horizon crew. "Some will not be friendly to humans, be prepared." John nodded. As Earth's chief diplomat, he was used to tough rooms. But this was different. This was humanity's first official meeting with the wider galactic community. The doors slid open to reveal a vast circular chamber. 32 different alien species sat in rising tiers around the room. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that John had to force himself not to stare. There were beings made of what looked like crystal, others that floated in tanks of liquid, and some that were clearly robotic. The Corax delegation was easy to spot. They were reptilian with dark scales and sharp teeth that showed when they hissed at John's entrance. They sat apart from the others, with empty seats around them. A tall, purple-skinned alien with 3 eyes stood at the center. "I am High Counselor Zev of the Galactic Council. We welcome the representative of Earth to this emergency session." John stepped forward. "Thank you, High Counselor. I am John Hayes, speaking on behalf of Earth and humanity." A rumble of voices filled the chamber. Many counselors leaned forward to get a better look at the human. "The Council has called this session to address the incident in the Tau Ceti system," Zev continued. "The Veldari have requested Earth's immediate inclusion in the Galactic Council, while the Corax have demanded sanctions against your planet for illegal interference." The Corax representative stood, his scales flaring with anger. "These humans attacked our ships without understanding the situation. They are primitive and dangerous. Their technology is barely past light speed. They have no place here among advanced species." John waited calmly for the translation to finish before he responded. "With respect, we understand perfectly what happened. Your ships destroyed a vessel carrying children. On Earth, there is no greater crime than harming the innocent. The Veldari are weak," the Corax spat. "It is the natural order for the strong to replace the weak. This is how species evolve." Many counselors shifted uncomfortably. John realized this was an old argument in the council, one that had never been fully resolved. "Humanity rejects that view," John said firmly. "We have learned through our own history that cooperation and compassion are what truly advance a species, not violence." A small, bird-like alien spoke next. "But your species is known to be violent. We have studied your broadcasts. You fight wars among yourselves constantly." John nodded. "We are not perfect. We have made many mistakes, but we strive to be better. And one thing we learned is to stand up against bullies, whatever the cost." The Corax leader rose again. "You think us bullies? You know nothing of our strength. Your one ship got lucky. If you join this council, the full might of the Corax Empire will teach humanity its proper place." The chamber went silent. Such open threats were rare in council proceedings. John looked directly at the Corax leader. His voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. "We come in peace and friendship to all who do the same. But make no mistake, we have not yet shown you what humans are truly capable of. Pray you never find out." The silence deepened. The Corax leader's scales flattened against his body in what John guessed was surprise. Thexala stepped forward. "The humans saved our children when no one else would. They asked for nothing in return. This is the spirit we need in our council." High Counselor Zev studied John for a long moment. "This council must vote on Earth's status. But first we must understand these humans better." He turned to John. "You speak of peace yet threaten war in the same breath. Which is the true face of humanity?" John's answer was simple. "Both. Always both. We will extend our hand in friendship, but we will close it into a fist if threatened. That is who we are. Around the chamber, counselors began to whisper to each other. Some looked afraid, others looked impressed. All of them looked at the humans with new eyes. Admiral Karen Foster stared at the holographic display showing the massive Corax fleet approaching the Sol system. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built, were less than 3 days away from Earth. They really think they can just come here and demand our surrender, she said to the room of military leaders gathered in Earth's defense headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. General Chris Barton nodded grimly. The Corax message was clear. Submit to their rule or face total destruction. The Corax had not taken kindly to John Hayes's words at the Galactic Council. Their pride had been hurt when a single human exploration vessel had interfered with their attack on the Veldari. Now they wanted to make an example of Earth. What about the scientists? Asked Karen. Do they have anything that might help us? Chris pressed a button on the table. Dr. Murphy and Dr. Rodriguez, please report your findings. 2 civilians entered the room. Dr. Ethan Murphy was tall with curly hair and nervous hands. Dr. Michelle Rodriguez walked with confidence despite the dark circles under her eyes from days without sleep. We've been studying the tech we captured from the damaged Corax ship, Michelle said, and we found something interesting. Ethan placed a small device on the table. This is a Corax shield generator. It's designed to block energy weapons, similar to our lasers, but we noticed it has a major weakness. Michelle continued. The Corax shields vibrate at a specific frequency to deflect energy, but if we adjust our weapons to pulse at exactly the right pattern, like a key fitting a lock, we can pass right through. How did you figure this out so quickly? Karen asked, impressed. It's actually similar to how we target cancer cells in medical treatments, Ethan explained. We've been using frequency-specific targeting on Earth for decades. We just needed to scale it up. Karen looked at the defense plans. Earth had 26 orbital platforms and 43 ships, not enough to match the Corax in direct combat. But with this new information, they might have a chance. How soon can we modify our weapons? She asked. We already have, Michelle said with a small smile. The first 10 platforms were updated yesterday. The rest will be ready before the Corax arrive. Karen stood up straighter. Then we have work to do. I want every ship and platform ready. The Corax think we're easy prey. Let's show them how wrong they are. 3 days later, the Corax fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the solar system. Their commander, Warlord Gresh, looked at the tiny, blue planet on his view screen with disdain. These humans think they can stand against us? Their technology is primitive. Their ships are few. This will be over quickly, he told his officers. The Corax advanced toward Mars, expecting little resistance. They were surprised when human ships moved to intercept them not with fear, but with purpose and organization. They are brave, at least, Gresh said. Order the first wave to destroy them quickly. 20 Corax ships moved forward, firing their weapons. They expected to see the human vessels explode or retreat. Instead, the Earth ships took the hits on their shields that should not have been able to withstand Corax weapons. Then the humans fired back. The modified weapons pulsed in patterns that confused Corax sensors. When they hit the alien ships, they passed straight through the supposedly superior shields as if they weren't even there. 3 Corax warships exploded in the first volley. Impossible, Gresh shouted as the reports came in. Their weapons cannot be this advanced. But they were. In the 2 weeks since first contact, Earth scientists had studied the alien technology and adapted it, combining it with human innovations in ways the Corax had never imagined. The human ships moved with surprising speed and coordination, targeting weak points that the Corax didn't even know their ships had. Pull back and regroup, Gresh ordered, his confidence shaken for the first time. These humans, they are not what we expected. On the command ship of Earth's fleet, Admiral Foster watched the Corax retreat with grim satisfaction. Send a message. To all Earth forces, she said. The fight has just begun, but today we've shown the galaxy that humanity will not fall easily. 5 representatives from the Galactic Council watched from their observation ship as the human fleet engaged the Corax in Earth's orbit. Each alien was from a different species, sent to report back on this unexpected conflict. They are broadcasting something on open channels, said Morel, a blue-skinned diplomat with large eyes. It's not tactical communications. The observers listened as the human ships transmitted names before each attack run. For the children of Boston. For Maria Lopez and her family. For the crew of the Jakarta station. What is this? Asked Trill, whose crystalline body sparkled under the ship's lights. Why do they announce these names? Dr. Kevin Young, the human psychologist assigned to the observer mission, explained. Those are the names of people who died in the first Corax attack on our orbital stations. Each ship is dedicating their mission to the fallen. The aliens exchanged confused glances. But this serves no tactical purpose, said Zexvi, the Veldari representative. It only alerts the enemy to their position. That's not the point, Kevin said quietly. It reminds our fighters why they're fighting. It honors those we've lost. The observers fell silent as they noticed something else. Many human ships had painted their hulls with images, snarling animals, ancient warriors, or simple messages like, "Remember Mars," where the Corax had destroyed a research outpost. And the imagery? Asked Orn, whose fur rippled with concern. What purpose does decorating war machines serve? Psychological warfare, Kevin replied. Humans use symbols to inspire fear in enemies and courage in ourselves. It's an ancient tradition. The fifth observer, a Corax scientist named Drex, who had opposed his government's attack, looked troubled. My people fight with precision and discipline. We suppress emotion as a weakness. But these humans... He gestured to the screens, showing Earth ships playing loud music as they attacked. They embrace emotion in battle. Kevin nodded. Throughout human history, we learned that emotion, properly channeled, can be a source of strength, not weakness. On another screen, they watched as human ground forces on Mars used unpredictable tactics against Corax troops. They didn't form neat lines or follow standard military formations. They appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and disappeared again. This is not how advanced species conduct war, Trill said. Where is the order? The structure? Humans adapt, Kevin explained. When facing a stronger enemy, we change our approach. We've had thousands of years of fighting among ourselves to perfect these tactics. The Veldari scientist Zulvex entered the observation room with a datapad. I have been studying human military history, he said, his voice shaking slightly. They have a concept called total war that I find disturbing. The aliens gathered around as Zulvex displayed images from human conflicts. World War II, the resource wars of the 2030s, the African unification conflict. When humans fight, Zulvex explained, they commit completely. They mobilize their entire society, economy, industry, science, culture, all toward victory. No other species we know does this. The observers watched as a small squadron of human ships baited a larger Corax force into an asteroid field, then detonated hidden explosives that had been placed days earlier. They plan, Drex said quietly. They prepare. They think ahead. And they remember, Kevin added. Every loss makes humans fight harder, not less. We don't give up when things get difficult. We become more determined. Morel turned to the others. I believe we need to report to the Council immediately. These humans are not simply another spacefaring race. What are they then? Asked Trill. Morel looked back at the screens showing the battle. A human ship, badly damaged but still fighting, rammed itself into a Corax cruiser, destroying both vessels. They are something the galaxy has never seen before, Morel said. They turn grief into resolve, anger into strategy, fear into courage. We must understand this if we are to understand humans. The observers nodded in agreement, watching with new eyes as the unpredictable humans continued to defy expectations in their fight for survival. The Corax returned with their main fleet 3 weeks after their first defeat. This time they bypassed Earth's defenses and headed straight for the human colonies on Mars and Europa. They would strike at the weakest targets first. Samantha Taylor, governor of the Mars colony, received the warning with just 4 hours to prepare. The colony housed 30,000 people, mostly civilians, scientists, farmers, and families. We need to evacuate, her assistant Paul said, already working on transport arrangements. There's no time, Samantha replied, looking at the reports.
We have 4 ships in orbit. They can take maybe 3,000 people.
She made a decision that would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. No evacuation. Paul stared at her. But Governor, those who want to leave can take the ships. Everyone else fights. Samantha activated the colony-wide communication system. Citizens of Mars Colony, the Corax are coming. We have been targeted because they think we are weak. We will show them how wrong they are. Over the next 4 hours, the people of Mars Colony prepared. They weren't soldiers, but they were humans. Miners converted their equipment into weapons. Scientists repurposed lab tools for defense. Farmers who used heavy machinery to reshape the Martian soil now used those same machines to build traps. When the Corax landed, they expected to find panicked civilians. Instead, they found an organized resistance. Every street was a battlefield, every building a fortress. The Corax commander, Sub-Lord Krat, couldn't understand it. They are not warriors, he told his officers. Why do they not surrender? What Krat didn't understand was that humans didn't need to be warriors to fight. Throughout their history, ordinary people had stood up against overwhelming odds for what they believed in. On Europa, the ice moon of Jupiter, the story was similar. The research station there was smaller, with only 5,000 people. But they too refused to run. They used their knowledge of the moon's icy surface to their advantage, leading Corax troops onto thin ice or into hidden crevasses. The Corax, frustrated by the resistance, made a critical error. They began taking human prisoners for study. They wanted to understand what made these creatures fight so hard. They conducted painful experiments on their captives, trying to find the source of human determination. What they found was that pain only made humans more resilient. When news of these experiments reached Earth, Admiral Foster called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. She played a message smuggled out by a prisoner. The man's face was bruised, his body clearly broken, but his eyes were clear and determined. They're trying to break us, the man said. They don't understand that's not how humans work. Every person they hurt just makes the rest of us fight harder. The room was silent when the message ended. Then Admiral Foster spoke just 4 words. No mercy from now on. The order went out to all Earth forces. The rules of engagement had changed. Until now, humans had targeted only military assets and had tried to minimize Corax casualties. Now, they would bring the full force of human warfare to bear. The Earth fleet, which had been holding defensive positions, suddenly launched coordinated attacks on Corax supply ships, communication relays, and command vessels. They struck with a ferocity that shocked even their allies. The Veldari ambassador watched from Earth's military headquarters as the human forces transformed before his eyes. They fought now with cold precision mixed with hot rage. A combination no alien species had mastered. Your people change when threatened, the ambassador said to General Chris Barton. You become something else. Chris looked at the tactical displays, showing human ships driving deep into Corax territory in daring raids. No, he said quietly. This is what we've always been. We just hide it well until needed. In space, Corax ships found themselves hunted by humans who seemed to never tire, never hesitate, and never show fear. The Corax had wanted war. Now they were learning what war with humans truly meant. The supreme commander of the Corax forces, High Lord Vexkar, paced the bridge of his massive flagship. Reports of defeats came in from across the solar system. His forces were being pushed back on all fronts by these humans who fought with unexpected skill and determination. They are only one species with inferior technology, he hissed to his war council. Yet they continue to resist. Perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal, suggested one of his advisors. Vexkar struck the advisor down with a swift blow. Corax do not retreat. We will show these humans the true meaning of war. He turned to his chief scientist. Is the weapon ready? The scientist nodded, though his scales had paled with worry. Yes, Supreme Commander. The pathogen has been modified to target human biology. But this crosses the line of acceptable warfare according to Galactic Council rules. The Council's rules are for the weak, Vexcar said. Deploy it immediately. Target their largest population center on the North American continent. 24 hours later, a cloud of invisible particles descended over Boston. The first victims began showing symptoms within hours: high fever, difficulty breathing, internal bleeding. The disease spread quickly, overwhelming hospitals and emergency services. General Peter Cruz of the Earth Defense Forces received the news while coordinating the defense of the Jupiter outposts. His face grew hard as he listened to the reports. How many dead? He asked. 3,000 so far, his communications officer replied. And rising quickly. The CDC is working on a treatment, but they need time. Peter closed his eyes briefly. He had been born in Boston. His family still lived there. General? His second-in-command prompted. Peter opened his eyes. Implement Protocol Omega. The command room went silent. Protocol Omega was the most extreme military response Earth had ever developed. It had never been used before. Sir, his second-in-command said quietly. Are you certain? Once initiated, Protocol Omega cannot be stopped. They targeted civilians with a biological weapon, Peter said. They've broken the final rule of war. Send the order. Throughout the solar system, Earth's forces received the coded message. Ships that had been fighting defensively suddenly shifted to full offensive operations. Ground forces that had been holding positions began advancing with renewed determination. The goal was no longer to defend. It was to completely dismantle the Korak's military capability. Every supply line, every communication hub, every military base became a target. On the Galactic Council observation vessel, the alien representatives watched in growing concern. They've changed their strategy, Zexvi, the Veldari noted. They're systematically targeting the Korak's infrastructure. This is concerning, said Morell, the blue-skinned diplomat. Should we intervene? Dr. Kevin Young, who had just received news about Boston, looked up with eyes that made the aliens step back. No, you should not get in their way. But this level of retaliation, Trill began, is exactly what the Koraks deserve, Kevin interrupted. They killed thousands of innocent people with a biological weapon. In human history, there are lines you don't cross, they just cross the biggest one. The Korak scientist Drex watched the tactical displays with growing horror. My people did not understand what they were provoking. We believed humans were just another species to conquer. That was your mistake, Kevin said. Humans can be the most compassionate beings in the galaxy. We heal, we build, we create. But when you threaten our existence, when you kill our children, he looked at the display showing Earth ships advancing toward Korak's territory. We become something else entirely. Several council species attempted to broker peace, sending urgent messages to both Earth and the Koraks. The Koraks, for the first time, were willing to talk. But the humans refused all communication attempts. Tell them, Admiral Foster said to the council representatives, that we will speak with them when the Koraks are no longer a threat, not before. The Veldari ambassador watching from Earth's command center turned to John Hayes. I have never seen such a transformation in a species. It is as if your entire civilization has become a weapon. John nodded grimly. That's what humans do when pushed too far. We adapt, we unite, and we eliminate threats to our survival. 3 months after the attack on Boston, the human fleet reached the Korak's home system. The massive ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls scarred from countless battles. At their center was the Earth flagship Retribution, commanded by Captain Ryan Diaz. Ryan stood on the bridge looking at the display showing the Korak's homeworld. It was a harsh planet with vast deserts and deep canyons, much like Mars but larger. The Korak civilization had spread across its surface in heavily fortified cities. They've pulled everything back to defend their homeworld, said his second-in-command, Linda Fisher. This will be their final stand. Ryan nodded. The human advance had been relentless. Protocol Omega had worked exactly as designed, systematically, destroying the Corax military infrastructure across multiple star systems. Now only their homeworld remained. "All ships report ready, Captain," said the communications officer. "Begin the approach," Ryan ordered. As the human fleet moved toward the planet, they were met by what remained of the Corax Navy. Once proud and powerful warships now formed a desperate defensive line around their world. The Galactic Council had sent a special delegation to witness what many expected would be the complete destruction of the Corax civilization. Most Council races believed the humans would do to the Corax exactly what the Corax would have done to them. Wipe them out entirely. On the Council observation ship, the delegates watched nervously. "The humans have the firepower to destroy the entire planet's surface," noted Trill, the crystalline being. "Their weapons have grown more powerful with each engagement." "Yes," agreed Morel, "and after what the Corax did to their city, who could blame them for using it?" The Veldari representative looked troubled. "If they do this, if they eliminate an entire species in retribution, how can the galaxy ever trust humans again?" On the retribution, Ryan received a transmission from the Corax Supreme Commander. "Human," Vexkar said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. "You have defeated our forces in battle. This is something no species has done in 10,000 years. You brought this on yourselves," Ryan replied calmly. "Perhaps," Vexkar admitted, "but now I must know. What terms do you offer? What price must we pay for peace?" The bridge crew held their breath. Everyone knew the destruction the Corax had caused. Thousands dead from the biological attack, colonies destroyed, prisoners tortured. Many expected Ryan to demand unconditional surrender followed by planetary bombardment. Ryan was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "These are our terms. First, your complete military disarmament. All warships and weapons will be turned over to Earth and our allies." Vexkar's scales rippled with tension, but he nodded. "Second, those responsible for the attack on Boston and the prisoner experiments will face justice before an interstellar tribunal." Again, Vexkar nodded. "Third, the Corax will submit to oversight by a joint Earth Council committee for 50 years, during which time you will make reparations to all species you have harmed." "And then?" Vexkar asked. "Then you will rejoin the galactic community." "As equals," Ryan said. "Not as conquerors, but as partners." A stunned silence fell over both ships. The Corax had expected annihilation. The Council observers had expected genocide. Neither had expected mercy. "Why?" Vexkar finally asked. "You have the power to destroy us completely. After what we did to your people, why show restraint?" Ryan's answer was simple. "Because that's the choice that defines us. We could destroy you. Part of us wants to. But we choose another path." On the Council ship, the observers looked at each other in amazement. "I don't understand," Trill said. "They fight with such ferocity, yet now, they offer mercy?" The Veldari representative slowly nodded in understanding. "This is why humans are truly terrifying. Not because of their capacity for violence, but because they choose when to use it and when to withhold it. They master both war and peace." The Corax Supreme Commander bowed his head. "We accept your terms, human. The Corax surrender." As the human forces moved in to secure the Corax fleet, the Council observers realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that could be both the most dangerous predator and the most compassionate guardian. 1 year after the surrender of the Corax, the Galactic Council held a special session. The Great Chamber was filled to capacity as representatives from all 32 member species gathered to witness a historic moment: Earth's formal induction into the Council. Julia Parker, the new human diplomatic envoy, stood at the center of the chamber. She was tall with dark skin and clear eyes that missed nothing. Behind her stood Captain Ryan Diaz, Admiral Karen Foster, and John Hayes, the humans who had shaped the galaxy's new order. High Counselor Zev raised his 3-fingered hand for silence. Today, We welcome the representatives of Earth as full members of the Galactic Council. Their actions during the recent conflict have proven they are ready for this responsibility. Many counselors nodded in agreement, though some still looked uneasy. The memory of human warships cutting through Korak's defenses remained fresh in their minds. Julia stepped forward. On behalf of Earth and all humans, we accept this honor with gratitude and humility. We come seeking friendship and cooperation with all peaceful species. As she spoke, a group of Koraks entered the chamber. They moved differently than before, less aggressive, more thoughtful. Their leader, once the scientist Drex, who had opposed the war, now represented his species. The Koraks also welcome Earth. To the Council, Drex said. We have learned much from humans this past year. About strength, about restraint, about the true meaning of advancement. Under Earth's oversight, the Koraks had begun to change. Their society, once built entirely around conquest, was learning new ways to measure success. They studied human history, particularly how Earth had moved past its own violent periods. After the formal ceremony, Julia presented her first proposal to the Council, the Mutual Protection Accord. This agreement, she explained, guarantees intervention if any species targets civilian populations or uses weapons of mass destruction. All signatories pledge to defend the innocent, regardless of species or alliance. The Council debated the proposal for hours. Some races feared it would give humans too much influence. Others worried about being drawn into conflicts not their own. Why should we change thousands of years of policy based on one war? Asked a reptilian counselor. Because the old way failed, Julia answered simply. When the Koraks attacked the Veldari, no one helped. When they targeted Earth, we stood, alone. That must never happen again. In the end, 28 species signed the accord. The Koraks were among them, their new leadership determined to rebuild their reputation. Later that evening, Julia stood on a balcony overlooking the council city. The alien metropolis stretched out below her, beautiful and strange. Thegzala, the Veldari ambassador who had first brought humans to the council, joined her. Your proposal was impressive, Thegzala said. Many species are still afraid of humans, yet they signed. Julia smiled. Fear can be useful sometimes. Indeed. Thegzala hesitated, then asked the question many in the galaxy still wondered. When your fleet reached the Koraks' homeworld, you could have destroyed them completely. After what they did to Boston, many of your people wanted revenge. Why did you choose mercy? Julia looked up at the unfamiliar stars. Throughout human history, we've learned that the most difficult choice is often the right one. We can destroy. We're very good at it. But building something lasting is harder. Some say that's what makes humans the most terrifying species, Thegzala observed. Not your weapons or your determination, but your unpredictability. Your choices. Julia nodded. The true measure of power isn't what you're capable of doing. It's what you choose not to do, even when you could. As they spoke across the galaxy, other council races secretly developed what they called human contingency plans. Some feared humans might one day turn their ferocity on others, but many more began to see Earth as something new in the galaxy, a species that could be its greatest destroyer or its strongest defender. The choice, as humans would say, was theirs to make, and that made all the difference.